Okay, awesome. So just a reminder for everyone, we are recording. So keep that in mind if you do not want your face or anything relative to that shown within like a YouTube posting that'll be public. Just want to give everyone that reminder there. And let me click here so we can change. Okay, that is the fun little logo design that we have here. And today's Zcash Arborist call, and of course, I had to mess up one thing. I did not change the date. It is not December 15th. It is January 12th. And this Arborist call specifically is being hosted by myself, Ian Zcashd from the Electric Coin Company. And the agenda for today is obviously the welcome and the meeting intro. I'll cover a couple of topics within the meeting intro here, and then we'll go through Zebra updates, research, and Zebra updates from ZF, research and implementation status updates from any of the teams doing research for the protocol, ECC core updates, discussions, and then we can wrap up the call after all of that. With regards, like we were mentioning before we started the presentation here, we updated all of the new call links. So there are two registrations, one for 1500 UTC and 2230 UTC. A reminder that the Arborist call is held bi-weekly and the two time slots alternate between the 1500 UTC and 2230 UTC time slot. All of that information can be found in the Zcash R&D Discord and can be found at the Zcash community forums. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at isags@electriccoin.co or message me in Discord at Janus. And with regards to hosting the Arborist call, I'm going to be hosting them for the near term, probably like the next 2 to 3 will all be hosted by me. But then we could possibly be doing a rotation between some community members and members from the Zcash Foundation. So I will keep everyone up to date on that. So what are Arborist calls? They're bi-weekly calls where Zcash protocol contributors convene to discuss upgrade timelines, process, protocol R&D efforts, design and implementation of new protocol features, and where we can all come together to identify any blockers that might be there and unresolved issues. The purpose is to make the core Zcash protocol development accessible for everyone in the community and just provide more transparency for the Zcash community and other crypto ecosystems at large. And who can participate? Anyone from the public can register to the Zcash Arborist call, and you can do that via the links in the forums. If you want to present an in-depth agenda item outside of the discussion items that we have listed on today's call and the past few calls, please contact me at isags@electric.coin.co to request that slot. Okay, other ways to get involved in the Zcash community. The Zcash Community Grants Program is currently looking to fund a number of different projects. You can go to their website to see the projects that they are interested in funding and any requests for proposals that they might have. Filecoin and ECC have a grant program that is available for developers that want to build projects related to advancing the Filecoin and Zcash ecosystems. And to come convene and discuss all these topics, you can head to the Zcash R&D Discord where we are all located. Awesome. So I'm gonna kick it off to the Zcash Foundation for updates regarding Zebra. Yeah, anyone from there wants to take it away?
Yeah, that's me today. So I'm Billy, I'm the engineering manager at the foundation. I don't usually speak in this forum, I lurk occasionally, but hopefully you'll be seeing more of me on this call. So right now in Zebra, we're just finishing, we finished the implementation of the get block template RPC method. And we want to really thoroughly test it to be sure that, be as sure as we can be that it will work correctly, especially since we're not sure how we're going to mine a block on testnet at this moment. So we're doing as much testing as we can. And maybe we will get to mine a block, but that's currently up in the air a bit. We have implemented most of the RPC methods that we think are needed to support mining pools. But there are a few others that we need to reevaluate and see how many mining pools are using them, and just ensure that we have a minimal set of RPC methods that will enable mining pools to use Zebra. We recently tagged our fourth release candidate, and that's Zebra 1.0.0-RC.3. And that's at the Zcash Foundation's Zebra GitHub repository. So that release includes the mining pool RPCs that have been implemented, and also some changes which implement the latest ZIP 317 changes to make sure that the transaction selection algorithm for the get block template RPC method matches the ZIP 317. So please check out the release and the release notes if you're interested on the full list of changes. If you are using Zebra, please upgrade to benefit from all the new functionality and fixes. One thing I want to mention is that if you do want to try out the latest RPC methods that are implemented to support mining and to generate blocks, you will need to compile ZBRD with the get block template RPCs feature and also do some extra configuration on your node. So please check out the release notes, check out the README for more information on that. A caveat that mining support is currently incomplete, experimental, and it's up by default. So again, more details on GitHub. And if you have more questions, you can drop us a line on Discord or create an issue on GitHub. And I think that's all I wanted to say.
Awesome, thank you. Are there any comments or questions from anyone in the audience or any of the panelists up here?
So is the sort of an expected timeline for sort of complete support for mining?
Not as such, but I'm hoping that in the next couple of sprints. So hopefully by the end of January, we'll have something that we are confident that mining pools can test. Well, let's see how it goes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome. And I believe the first hand up here we have is Deirdre.
Yeah, I wanted to give a little update on some of the Frost work that we're also doing at the foundation. We have a zip up for review about how to use Frost with the spend authorization signatures in Zcash. This is a variant. It points to the IATF document, which is almost done. It went through last call in the IATF with lots of praise. So we're synthesizing the final feedback and getting that moved from a draft document to a real boy RFC. And then the zip for how to use it with Zcash points to that, but with the update that it is re-randomized because the spend auth signatures in Sapling and Orchard that we have designed the cipher suites for and how to use it for are re-randomized to improve privacy across different transactions. So that is up. We have been working on it for a while, but we're finally just kind of putting it out there to get the zip review. We have implementations of it that we are getting tidied up. And so that's available for people to look at. And then we have Rust code, of course, of how to use it. We'll be updating our old Rust code of how to do Frost for Sapling and Orchard cipher suites for Red Jub and Red Palace signatures, which we've had for a long time, but was based on pre-RFC versions of Frost. We'll be updating to point to those in the future. So that's an update for Frost stuff.
Awesome. Thanks, Deirdre. Nate, I saw you have your hand up for a question regarding the items discussed by ZF here. Nate, I think you're on mute.
Hear you.
No, that's not
You're
working there.
Unmuted, but still can't hear you.
Okay, as Nate fixes his audio here, let's pass it over to Addy from Nighthawk.
So I had a question regarding the mining support in ZebraD. Is it going to be 1:1 feature set of mining as Zcashd, or are there any extra features or customizations available with the mining support in ZebraD?
So far it's actually going to be probably less features because what we have right now is we can generate the block. We can't do the actual mining. I believe Zcashd can actually do mining. So far we're doing the minimum we have to do in order to support mining pools. as we do some testing and we talk to people, we might decide to implement more mining RPC, some more features. But for right now, this is kind of like the bare minimum that we think we have to do in order to support mining pools.
Okay, great. Nate, how's your audio looking there? Okay. No, not working. So Nate's put his question in the chat here. Is the Zebra team in contact with any of the mining pools?
Yeah, we have some of the developers have been in touch with some mining pools. I've not been in touch with them personally, but we have had some feedback. I have to say it's very hard to get any details, or we're hoping that once we get them to test, we'll be able to get more clarity. But I think maybe getting them to test will also be a challenge. But fingers crossed, we'll see how it goes.
Awesome. Before we move on to research and implementation status updates, are there any questions regarding Zebra or Frost from anyone else in the audience here? Okay, great. So moving on to research and status implementation updates. Don't know if anyone from ECC or ZF wants to take, or from the CADIT team that's up here as well, wants to take the first topic of discussion.
We can go if it makes sense. So actually, on our side, there's myself and Vivek, who's been updating the community and runs the whole updating the zips and a lot of the work that is communicated back to at large. So I want to do two parts. One, a quick status on Zcash shielded assets, where we are, the up and coming pull requests that are about to be baked and served, and then just a word on roadmap questions that we started to float to outside to see what would be the most interesting next features. If there's time and it makes sense, I also would like to discuss the testnet plans of Zcash shielded assets and when would that come. Vivek, you want to take it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's nice to see everyone again. So I'll just, can I share my screen by any chance? It might.
Yes, let me stop sharing mine and should be good to go here.
Okay, I think it's disabled for participants, but.
Oh man, let's do this. I can make you a host actually really quickly, and that should fix that. So I'm going to change the host here. So Vivek, you're now the host and should be able to share screen.
Yeah, I can do it now. Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks.
So yeah, so most of like the updates have already been posted on the Zcash community forum about last week. So like when it comes to ZSAs, like some of the updates that we've had are for like the burn mechanism. So we've basically implemented the burn functionality, and like we'd recommend going over the pull requests like on the community forum link. We've added like features to do some of the basic burn implementation, like to burn given amounts of a specific asset and things like that. But there's obviously still work left on the circuit and different other parts. So it's not totally a complete picture as yet, but we are getting there. So the other update we have is on the note encryption. So this here, like for adding like 32 bytes of an asset identifier to the, like as part of the ZSA protocol, we have to add that to the note. And that required some changes to, I think, basically 3 crates. The Zcash note encryption package in Libra's Zcash, the Orchard crate itself, and the Zcash primitives package inside Libra's Zcash. So the idea is basically that so far we've had only like 580 bytes as the plain text size, and now we need to allow for like that as well for like support for sapling, as well as like for the 32 bytes added, so 612 bytes for the new ZSA protocol nodes. So we have like pull requests for the Libra Zcash package, and we have initial work done for the Orchard crate. We are still working on the Zcash primitives part of the package, but we again, it's work in progress and we are getting there. We've also started working on the client again. We had done some cosmetic changes where we had like added like RPC, we had changed RPC commands so that we now see the asset ID balances and things like that. So we've moved a bit beyond the cosmetics to actually going and taking the details from the Orchard crate. And so that's an important bridge that we are building right now. The last of the updates is about the zips.
Right,
So,
right.
like we've had
for the zips, one thing, all of the ECC and foundation people, all these pull requests, at some point, we will need to make sure that you can catch them on the other side and they don't stay, on their own. So it's getting to become a pretty large effort. And at some point, we should talk and see when do we meet and how do we not step on our toes. But go on, Vivek, for the zips.
Yeah, so in the zips, we've been going over, like, I think the zip editors have given a lot of like very like important comments, and like I've gone through, we've made some of the changes, and there are like, I think some of the changes which we might want to discuss a little further. So like we'll probably contact you going forward soon and like get some things hashed out with the zip editors and maybe whoever else is the important stakeholders there. When it comes to, we also split the zips up into like the pull request that we have, like 649. We kept it to just have the transfer zip and the issuance zip, so zips 226 and 227. And we had zip 317B, which was like the phase zip that we had, but we've like separated that out into a new zip that is currently only on like a pull request on the Kedit fork of the zips. Because like I think the general preference was that we have we use, instead of having a separate file zip 317B, we merge it into zip 317 with say separate sections to point out where we are adding changes for the ZSA protocol. And so like we are working on like adding those suggestions into zip 317, after which we'll be able to like make a proper pull request to the zips file. So yeah, I think that's basically the update on the status of the project. So John, if you want to take over.
Yeah, one addition on the zips, we one of the pieces of work we needed to do was to update the spec itself. But after discussing this with you guys, a lot of the changes on the spec are sections inside the zips that would go as is to the new spec. And we understood that that's the best way to do it. So we haven't touched the proper spec, but there's like whole sections of this would go as is to this section of the spec, etc.
Yeah, I don't anticipate that'll be a lot of work if they can be just copied or moved across also. Yeah.
Well, we managed to to indicate where each piece of material would go.
Perfect.
Yeah. So actually, the next piece is what's up and coming. So we have, as Vivek said, a bit of work to deliver to finalize the transfer part. There's pieces of the circuits that are still work in progress. As I said, the spec itself is being written, but all of this is in the coming, let's say, month. And then we already have let's say ideas or plans that we want feedback on, like what to do next and what to do first. There's a piece that's making all these changes concrete, tested, like play with, give the wider community a way to play with the actual developments. And there's another which is making sure that whatever happens on ZSA is useful for the first applications that we envisioned for them. And here we actually started, with our Kedit hat, talking to people that might look at that as infrastructure for stable coins and for like concrete use. One of the main, it made us reorder the features that we thought about. The main feature that we would like to implement next is actually reject transactions, because if this is used for payment, you want to be able to say, I don't want that particular, I don't know who just sent me this money, I don't want it. And it connects to all the stuff that happened with Tornado Cash, where they sent a bunch of stuff and to accounts, and is it yours? Do you need to create a transaction to push it back? All these legal questions, we want to avoid all that.
Yeah, I'm glad you're taking that into account.
Thanks. And so there's a bunch of other like roadmap features that each are kind of independently could be discussed and weighted. I don't want to take this call for that, but I do ask that you guys see what we are proposing and maybe have a different conversation on that. This obviously will be submitted to all the formal the committees. I don't know, I didn't follow the timing of the committees if there's changes and votes, etc. But we will follow all the formal steps to propose that for the next work.
Awesome.
And
Thanks.
that's about that.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Vivek and John there. Strad, I see that you have a question. Or
yeah, from quite a while
rather.
back. Trying to remember what it was. While I try to remember what that was, as far as like next steps for integration goes, so Zcashd has a framework for features, like network upgrade features, which we tried to get in for NU5 and didn't quite hit it. So none of the NU5 stuff uses it, but the framework is there in the code base. So my recommendation there would be to basically implement ZSAs using that feature flagging system. So if you've got questions, come talk to us. So that essentially that will allow us to optimistically merge code in rather than growing this very large patch set. Because we can basically, that code can then just be gated off. So it does not affect the mainnet consensus rules or regular testing consensus rules. And then we can explicitly enable it. And so then get into your, that was one of the points, was getting to your point about test nets. The initial thing there would essentially be to just define a new, effectively a new test net just for playing with these features. And so we could then enable this feature on that test net and figure out what's going on there, and get that prepared. And then as other things shape up for whatever goes into NU6, assuming that this goes in, because it's likely, but we still have to have that discussion. But whatever feature set in addition to gets combined with this can then be tested together, as those features, and then once we're happy with what's going to go into the next network upgrade, that can then be rolled out onto testnet. So that's what I would recommend there. Probably means you might want to do a similar thing in terms of like the orchard crates and things, using feature flags for those new pieces, in the same way that over in Zcash primitives, I think we have, it's either unstable or experimental as a feature flag for the TZDs stuff, which separately, I think we had conversations at one point about doing ZSAs using the TZD stuff, but we should be talking about that outside of this meeting, I think.
Was the original question about node encryption extra bytes?
Yes, it was. That's precisely when I raised my hand. Yeah. So the question I had there was, are you going the approach of preserving the existing memo size or consuming pieces of like 32 bytes of that memo? So are you going the direction of the entire ciphertext grows beyond 500, to 612 bytes, or are you keeping it at 580 and consuming a piece of the memo internally?
Yeah,
So
Vivek,
no,
you
we
want to
are we are going to be extending the ciphertext size by 32 bytes. So the memo size stays the same, 512 bytes, and the whole thing goes up by 32 bytes as a result.
Okay, so that then ties into discussions that we had and stuff we didn't end up putting into NU5 for complexity budget reasons. But one of the things that we had discussed then was potentially splitting off the memo field into a separate ciphertext to allow for essentially allow for more configurability there, obviously at the expense of some extra data can be revealed, but you could then do things like have a memo that is decryptable by multiple recipients in the transaction, or like if you don't need memos and you're willing to exclude that space, then just like exclude them to save transaction size. And there are a few other things I think, and there's an issue related to it that I'll try and find. But if we're going to be changing the memo field formats for this, we should also have that discussion as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think just doing the simple thing of extending the ciphertext size in the initial implementation is fine, and then we can consider how to integrate that with the other change, which is.
But the reason I mentioned that though is because whatever we do is going to be a reasonably, like, as you can see from the PR, it's going to be somewhat extensive in terms of changes to the Zcash note encryption crate, because certainly the way the changes have been implemented thus far, they affect the existing code rather than just being additions. So, I mean, we should also, we might be able to separate some of those changes out. Like I know the move to use an associated constant for the length. I think at the time that we built the crate, we couldn't do that because of limitations in Rust, but our MSRV might be recent enough that all of the const stuff we need for it is available. So that'll be something I'll be thinking about when reviewing that.
That's interesting. I think like
sorry, go on.
No, yeah, that's interesting because I think I had tried using an associated constant and run into, I think, the same Rust issue some months ago, I think. So, okay, if it's working now, that would be interesting.
Yeah, I think we still can't do math with constants, but we can use those associated constants in more places than we could previously. So, and that's also why I was asking about, like, is it expanding versus whatever, because we might be able to simplify the APIs that currently use generics to type the lengths of ciphertexts we could instead potentially split this into a refactor that means that the length is no longer part of the type expression of the type, and then that would then enable the new thing to be done more as an addition rather than a modification. So we'll have a think and see how we can split up those changes to make it easier to integrate as a feature.
Yeah, the reason my hand was up is that Strad mentioned adding a new testnet, and that actually would have been useful in previous upgrades, like I think at least Canopy and NU5, probably Sapling as well, because we had some coordination difficulty. People wanted to be still testing on the existing protocol and the existing testnet at the same time as we wanted to upgrade testnet.
Yeah, we've done like private test nets in a sense before, where we've just privately forked it, but there's no reason why we can't just like add another test net definition.
Yeah, that's one of the proposals that we're thinking of and trying to time for Zcon is to actually try to have another testnet that we would be taking care of and maybe hosting so that people can play specifically on ZSA. But it's one of those like, let's do this quickly. It's a quick win for that. Aditi, you're with your hands right.
Yeah, so I wanted to expand a bit on the transaction rejection. So what is the high-level approach to reject a transaction, and who pays the fees for this rejection?
I think we actually might organize a sort of small Ask Me Anything on those specific designs, and also I think we hogged the talk here, but there's a lot that goes, like, back and forth on these questions, and this is part of like the work, trying to find the design space and pros and cons and propose something that makes sense. But to your question, it's probably if you made a transfer, you're paying the fees, and if the other person refuses and it didn't go into the block, well, the miners want the fee. You don't want to make you don't want to make it spammable just because somebody refused. It's the sender responsibility to send. And if the person that received refused it, well, it went on chain and took some space, so somebody needs to pay.
But presumably there will have to be some record on chain of whether it was accepted or refused, because that affects the balances of the sender and recipient.
Yeah, that's the whole conversation, and we need all the smart people to help us think about it.
Okay, I look forward to that.
The follow-up question on that, are you thinking of a minimum amount of ZEC required to be held in wallets so the wallet is eligible to interact with CSAs?
Oh, I don't think this came up, but it is a problem. It is a problem with like Ethereum tokens, when you get a token and then you have no way of moving it around because you don't have ZEC. It's or you don't have F in that case. Again, we can discuss that in other forums, no problem.
Sounds good. And a quick question to Strad. Is the NU5 framework code like compiled ready for testnet purposes? Like, can anyone play with it?
You mean the feature logic?
Feature logic, yeah.
Yes, yeah, that was merged in a while ago. Let me just find where the logic for this is.
Yeah, if you search for ZFuture in the source code, then you will find it.
Yeah, that's the spot which basically records it all. It was a while ago that we merged it. Here we go. Document upgrades feature ZFuture. Yeah, okay, it's this file. Yeah, it's the in the wrong file. Oh, it's over in params. That's why.
Yeah, basically, if I remember correctly, it's kind of like a synthetic network upgrade that is gated off. That's called ZFuture.
Yeah, so if you look in source consensus params.h, you'll find there's a consensus feature enum, and so we just that's the and then there's a feature info structure there. You can basically define like a graph of features. So like a DAG of features, so you can define like initial features that do things and then later features that build on earlier features and so on. So I think we have an open PR for trying to get in TZEs as a feature that then things could build on, for instance, but we haven't had the time to get that fully in. But that's what that framework enables.
Thanks.
Yeah, but it's geared essentially towards consensus features specifically. So it's not the sort of thing you'd use for like new RPC methods related to like just wallet behavior or something. That's better suited to like a config option or something. But this is specifically for like you want to configure the set of consensus rules that are being applied. The intention is that new consensus rule changes will go into this, so we can turn on features or maybe in future turn off features. TZD, someone asked in chat, what does it stand for? Transparent Zcash extensions. It was something we designed a while back as essentially a extension of the way that transparent logic works. So generalizing the UTXO model to you can send funds to something that is encoded as a pre-commitment, precondition. And then when you go to spend it, you have to provide a witness that satisfies that prepared condition, that precondition, which is effectively how transparent UTXO logic works with Bitcoin script. One could implement Bitcoin script in this model, but the idea was that it was then a general pluggable system that then we could build other things on top of that needed that UTXO style commitment scheme, commit and then witness for spending, and that we could also use to sort of like collect and collate things that people were trying to do, so that then in the grand, desirable future, when everything becomes, fully shielded, even these pieces, we would be tracking the kinds of things that people were trying to do, so that then, shielded versions of them could be more easily determined and written, which is a problem we have with Bitcoin script, because right now, if we wanted to move, Bitcoin script style things into a circuit, we would need to support the entirety of Bitcoin script, even though the vast majority of the opcodes no one uses. But because it's part of the feature set, we would.
I have internal information there that's super interesting. That's kind of public, but there's a language called Simplicity that somebody at Blockstream was working on. I blank on the name, but I'm talking to him this week, and it's a sort of extension, or like a much stronger version of Bitcoin scripting, and they're actually looking at doing that and making it, compiling it into circuits that would be zero knowledge proven. There's like a zero knowledge proof thread in Bitcoin Core that's under the radar.
Fantastic.
Now I guess it's not, but yeah.
You heard it here first,
Cool.
folks. Yeah, one of the motivating.
Russell O'Connor, thank you very much, Nate.
One of the motivating examples for TZEs, or the main one, was Bolt, which is I think blind offline light.
Yeah, they renamed to Zk channels a while back,
yes,
but
Zk
effectively, yeah, like where you were doing ZKPs off chain, but then your on chain state still needed a UTXO model, and so that was the motivating idea for TZDs. But yeah, intending to make the system more pluggable. Different UTXO style things could plug in a way that we as full node maintainers could manage the complexity of.
Okay, great, awesome discussions there. And does anyone, as we discussed everything with regarding to Kedit's work there, does anyone from ECC or ZF have any research or implementation status updates?
As far as that goes, no. We've got our core team update like Zebras, but that's next on the list.
Yep, we can move to that if anyone else doesn't have any questions or comments.
I guess there are going to be some minor updates to the protocol spec, just corrections, not anything that changes consensus, but one of them is actually an error in the spec relative to zip 212, which was done in Canopy. So if you were implementing from the spec, then that might be relevant to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And okay, now we can move over to the ECC core updates. Anyone from the ECC want to take this away?
Yeah, I can cover that. Fortunately, whatever has happened to this slide template has not lost any details perfectly. So yeah, we've got a couple of fronts of work we've been working on. The main one has been continuing work towards implementing DAG sync for the mobile SDKs. Chris has been doing excellent work building the shard tree crate, which is implementing the new tree strategy. And that I think he's just put the PR up for that. So, we're starting review work on that. We've also blocked out and about to start on the Zcashd changes that are needed to power shard tree. And then when those two pieces are sort of in, and then we thread it through Light Wallet D, then that will sort of be able to get out the first increment on that I think we discussed in a previous Arborist call of performance improvement there.
Strad, can you just give a sort of summary of how shard tree is different?
Chris could give a good summary if Chris is here.
Sure. So the main difference is that up until now, are the Zcash note commitment trees, which we use in order to be able to make proofs of that you control a particular node. They have required in order linear appends. So in order to produce a current note commitment tree for a given note, you would have to essentially scan the chain in linear order. What the idea of shard tree is to change that from a linear ordered scan to be able to essentially decrypt or add to the note commitment tree in random order. So this will enable things like scanning just the last 100 blocks of the chain, and then getting information about intermediate nodes of that note commitment tree from a third party like LightwalletD, that the note commitment tree is public information. So so all that we need is intermediate nodes of the note commitment tree, and then information about the specific subtrees in which our notes live, which is determined by our wallet. And then we can scan in random order, and we can make notes instantly spendable, with just say a megabyte's worth of download from LightwalletD of data that's static. So that's the essential thing is getting rid of the requirement for linear appends.
Awesome.
Back to you,
Yeah,
Strad.
sorry for the interruption, Strad.
Now
you now appear to be muted or something.
Yep. Lips are moving, but no sound.
Perhaps he'll be back.
Yeah, Strad just left. I don't know if anyone from Addie's got a question here while we wait for Strad to come back in.
Yeah, if someone could expand on what is the work on recursion for Halo 2? Is that something to do with the scaling solutions? It's the last point on the slide.
I think Strad can clarify, but last time we spoke, I think outside parties who are depending on Halo 2 were.
Yeah, I can take this up.
Yeah.
So yeah, the ECC has their cooperation with the Falcon Foundation and the Ethereum Foundation on working on recursive zero knowledge proofs. So Halo 2 was always designed to support recursion like Halo, but the implementation of that was incomplete because we didn't need it for Orchard. So we're filling that in. Strad, are you able to talk now? We still can't hear you. Yeah, we can see you muting and unmuting, and it's not making any difference. That's very strange.
Nate, is your audio still acting up a bit as well? Yeah, okay. Okay, well, I can go back to sharing the screen. I don't know if anyone from ECC Core wants to take off where Strad left off there.
I mean, I can take over.
Okay,
let's see. I'll mainly be reading the slide because I've been off work for 4 weeks and I've just come back a couple of days ago. So yes, let's see. So refactoring the Rust sapling types, that's basically to make them more similar, the sapling implementation more similar to the Orchard crate, because we learned a lot from implementing Orchard. So we want to make those more regular, and that will make it easier for external parties to implement things that that work for both Sapling and Orchard, like, for example, hardware wallet support. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So to support ZIP 317, which is the fee changes, part of that is we've now backported some changes from Bitcoin that supported for transparent transactions, keeping track of dependencies in the mempool. And so because we would have to touch code that has changed in Bitcoin, we wanted to do those refactors first. Let's see. There are several features, mainly in the RPC APIs, that had been deprecated for quite a while and have now been removed.
Just a clarification there, the deprecated features are now visible, or they can now be re-enabled for a period of time, as is mentioned on the deprecation page, by providing a command line flags at startup. So they've not been completely removed yet, but they will be. So if you're making use of any of the deprecated features, you should migrate away from them.
Yeah, I think the main changes were things that were deprecated but on by default have been now changed to off by default. And a couple of the very old things, so the ZC raw methods that were basically prototyping the shielded functionality even from before launch, and those have been removed completely. Okay. And there was a lot of sort of near duplicated code between several RPC methods that handled sends, and so changing those to use the same code will help in future.
Yeah, that again is the primary interest there is it was going to be extremely challenging to implement ZIP 317 for the Zcashd wallet without fixing the technical debt that's been around since 2017 and those in the duplicated and inconsistent code in those RPC methods. And so getting rid of that duplication and cleaning everything up is a prerequisite to Zcashd wallet implementation of ZIP 317.
Yeah, I think that's everything.
Okay, awesome. Let's go ahead. Does anyone have any comments or questions around the content that was just shared from the audience? Yep, we got one here from Addie.
So speaking of deprecation, I noticed the dump wallet feature was deprecated. I just want to understand what was the thinking behind that, because now users cannot really get all
they should use the Z export wallet, and this has actually been the case for a long time, that dump wallet did not it has been deprecated in the RPC docs, but it didn't, I believe, correctly export shielded.
Yeah, it still did exactly the same thing that it does in Bitcoin, which is only dump the transparent part of the key tree. So yes, if you actually use that and you'd use shielded addresses in your wallet, then you would only be dumping part of the information.
Right, but with the new feature of export address, you need to know the address. And what if a user don't know their addresses and just want to get all the private keys from a wallet? How would they do that?
I mean, Z export is a superset of dump wallet.
Z export, okay, I'll check it out.
Z export, and also since Zcash 4.7, we now have mnemonic derivation of all of the keys from the mnemonic seed. And so backing up the mnemonic seed for any newly created addresses is sufficient to be able to recover those.
Cool.
Okay, great. Nate's just put into the chat here, brainstorm. We could augment the online live output for deprecated methods to refer, which calls supersede them. Example, dump wallet should say use Zexport wallet. And then,
I
yep.
think it does. I can't
Yep.
remember.
Cool. Responded there. And then, yeah, I think, okay, good there. Does anyone else have any other questions or comments regarding the content just discussed? Okay, great. So the last part of the call for today is going to just be an open discussion. So if there's any other remaining topics that regarding anything that we discussed today that anyone has any questions or would like some more additional commentary on, this would be the time to go ahead and do that before we wrap up to today's Arborist call.
Yeah, I just checked. If you call dump wallet, it will mention Zexport wallet in the error message. Oh, and I said Zexport before. It's actually spelled Z_export wallet.
Okay, great. Sorry, I was just responding to Stroud there. So with regards to the messages on the Zoom call, when I was setting everything up this week, I might have forgot to turn on messaging capabilities for panelists to everyone, so including attendees. So I will look at that after this call and make sure that that's fixed for the next and upcoming Arborist calls. So my apologies for that. Any other comments with regarding the technical discussions we've had? Okay, great. Well, I just want to say thank you. Jason, recording upload. Yeah, so I've sent a few messages internally regarding the uploads for the latest Arborist call recordings, and obviously including this one today. What I'll do is I'll force through access so I can get like access to the ECC YouTube channel, just because I'm in the workflow of doing this. So right after the call, I can get the recording up there and just upload it right away. So I'll change that in the workflow internally at ECC.
Well,
so yeah.
and while I remember, I think there are some duplicate calendar events on Google Calendar, and some of them links in place.
Yeah, so the issue with that is that there are still some, if you accepted the previous registrations from Stephen and Nate's past Arborist calls, so I worked through that with Tatiana last night, those would appear on the calendar. I think with regards to the internal ECC calendar, I think it should, like on the ECC calendar event items, I think those are updated. So I think the duplicates are from past registrations. So, but I can shoot you a message.
I see. Yeah, so if you have a calendar event pointing to the wrong place, just delete it on your own calendar.
Yep, awesome. Thanks, Darren. Cool. And then Addie had a comment here, great work on refactoring outstanding code from zip 317 and the DAG sync changes from the ECC team. So awesome, thanks for the comment there, Addie. And yeah, if there's no other questions or comments, we can wrap up today's call. I will, post all these calls recordings on social media as soon as I get access to do that. And yeah, I know there was a few issues with the Zoom links today, so expected that, obviously being the first time back and having a new registration process. So over the next 2 weeks, I'll continue just to work through that and make sure everything's as streamlined as possible. So we're good to go for 2023. So thanks for everyone's time today, and have a great rest of your day.